Hey, rich friends, it's your girl Cha Cha reporting live from the Money Mantra, and I'm back with another Forex education video. The purpose of this channel is to help as many people as possible become independent and profitable traders. So if that's something that you're looking for, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you get to the end of this video and you find that it's helpful, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment to let me know what you learned, but more importantly, share this video with another trader. If you find that the videos are just not helpful enough, you can follow me on TradingView or register for personal mentorship, and all of that information is down below in the description box. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over how to find the perfect entry when it comes to Forex trading. And you probably think that you can never have a perfect entry, but you can actually get in the market at a really good time to maximize the number of pips you get, or just to really catch a lot of profit in that trade. Because the market is essentially always going to be moving up and down. Some people may say that there's no such thing as a perfect entry, but if we were to get in for a buy right here, right, and to catch this entire move, that would definitely be better than getting in for a buy up here and catching only half of it. Even though both are great trades, I'm pretty much going to show you guys what to look for when it comes to catching the entire move of a trade, or as much of it as possible. So first and foremost, when we are trading, the website that I'm going to be using today is called TradingView. Now, TradingView is free, but they also do have a paid version. And if you ever do decide to try the paid version, you'll notice the differences and why it's worth to upgrade. But for now, I'm just going to be showing you guys the free features that I use when it comes to my strategy. So I do hope you guys are taking notes, because I really want you to write this down, or just everything I say is going to be important, but try to write down the key things. So the first key thing you need to understand when it comes to trading in the foreign exchange market is that you should always try your best to trade with the trend. Trade with the trend. And this just makes a lot more sense the longer that you've been trading, right? Because say, for example, we started here, right? We're not going to talk about any specific entries yet, but just looking at it visually, let's just say if we got into the market here and we noticed that the market had been going up for some time, right? Then the market kind of stalled out here, right? So it was consistently going up here. The market stalled out here, but then it continued to go up, right? Had we stayed into this trade this entire time, we would have been able to catch more pips, because we can see that the market was consistently going up. It just hit some consolidation. So we wouldn't want to have taken short sales during this time. We would have waited until the market would have come back down, and then we would have gotten in for a buy. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about today is don't trade against the trend. Don't try to catch a move on something like this when you can just wait for the retest for the market to essentially continue to go in the direction of what is ultimately doing. Now, I talk about this in a few different classes and videos, but it is nice to start your analysis on a weekly time frame. This is just something that I do because it gives me the largest amount of data. Now, when I say this, I feel like people tend to get confused because you're looking at all of this data and you still don't really know where to get in. But the only reason you're starting on this big scale is because you can see a lot more information if you couldn't see those confirmations on a smaller time frame. So for example, when it comes to trading, again, we are always going to be focused on something called support and resistance. So support are areas in the market where you can see, and we're going to pay attention to this over here. The market came off of a huge downtrend, and then it hit a stall, right? And it didn't just hit a stall in one candle. And I'll zoom in a little bit, but we can see at least 1, 2, 3 candles, right, revisited this area before the market actually decided to turn around. And I'm actually going to highlight this with some tools offered by TradingView, because you guys can do this as well. So I'm going to come down to my my shapes tool, and I'm just going to get my circle. And what I'm pretty much going to do, and this is what I'm going to do across multiple time frames, I'm going to be highlighting those areas of support and resistance where the market seemed to have a lot of activity. So for example, I'm going to highlight here. I'm going to highlight here. I'm going to highlight here. Right. And what you'll notice is that all of these things are essentially in the same zone, right? They're in the same zone. And I'm highlighting this because I can see that every time the market came into this zone, this is one time, it went up, right? This is two times, it went up. This is three times. This is four times. And this is five times, right? So I can say that this area here, this might be a crooked line, this area is a strong area of support. Why? Because over a large amount of time, once the market pushes into that zone, it tends to go up, right? And again, support is a place where the market, it doesn't get any lower than. Once the market pushes into this zone, right, also called a demand zone, that is when the market will start to buy, right? If you guys can see that, go ahead and drop a 7 in the chat, right? And this is a lot of data. This data goes all the way back to 2015, right? And we don't need to go back that far, but I'm just showing you how you are trying to create this bias in your mind when you're trying to decide if you should get into a trade or not, right? So just let me know if that makes sense so far, right? Right now, we're just highlighting strong area of support, and I'm going to turn it green. Right, I'm gonna turn it green just so we can know that every time the market pushes into that area, it tends to buy, right? So now on the opposite side, I'm just going to delete these purple circles. No, maybe I'll leave them. On the opposite side, we have areas of resistance, and resistance are going to be where we see places in the market where every time the market hit that area, it's sold, right? So we can see here, right? That's the most recent time. We can see here, right? We can see here. We can see here, right? And I'll just delete the buy circle so we don't get confused, because right now we're focusing on resistance, because resistance is the opposite of support. It's when the market has gotten to a place, right? And every time it gets into that area or touches that zone, it tends to sell. And I'm gonna just go ahead and turn this red so we don't get confused. So far we've marked up a strong area of support, and we've also marked up a strong area of resistance. And I chose my resistance areas because I can see once the market got here, it sold. Once the market got here, it sold. Once the market got here, it sold, right? So now we can see that the market has not quite reached back into our support zone yet, right? The market hasn't quite reached into our support zone. It's bounced off the resistance already, and now it's headed back here. So if we were to get in for a sell, we wouldn't have the perfect entry, right? Because it's already resisted. However, we do know essentially what our first TP should be. If that makes sense, drop a 7 in the chat. Right? And this is on a weekly time frame, because the first thing you need to do before you get into any trade, no matter what style of trading you're doing, no matter which asset that you're going to be trading, you need to be able to identify this, because once you establish what is the overall trend for the market currently, then you can determine which way you're going to get into the trade, right? So we can zoom out more, right? Because that's a lot of information to analyze, but we can see, and this is going to be very important, we can see overall, hold on, I'm looking for my arrow, that this market, if we take it from here, if we look at even more, we can see that this market is on the overall downtrend, right? It's on the overall downtrend. So once we establish that, we know that now we should only be focusing on areas of resistance, right? And because we zoomed out, we can now even see an additional area of support down here. So this can be something like your TP2 if you do plan to hold the trade for that long, right? If you do plan to hold the trade for that long. And then I'll even draw another arrow down here, right? The market should be going from here, this area of resistance, down to either this area of support or this area of support. Because remember what we talked about 2 weeks ago, filling in the gap, right? The market has to fill in the gap. If you can see this better, right, now that it's zoomed out and you can understand what I'm talking about when it comes to support, resistance, and also filling in the gap, right? To fill in the gap means that there's no candles here. On this entire right side, there's no candles, but there's candles on the left side. So in order for this market move to be complete, this gap will have to be filled in, and the market will have to at least come back down to here for TP1 or here for TP2. Does that make sense, y'all? Right? And this is still in the weekly time frame. But the reason why you don't have to start on the weekly, but it is important that you do start on a higher time frame so that you can create the bias in your mind. Are you going to buy or are you going to sell? And what is that based off of? So right now, this is looking like we could potentially take a sell, right? But what you can also do is see that the market is currently at, let's look at this red number, 1.09449, which is about 300 pips from where it resisted at. That's pretty high, right? And if we don't want to wait for the market to go all the way back up and revisit that area, the next thing that we would do is take it down to a smaller time frame, right? And I'm just going to reset my chart. Now, something you should do every single time you switch your time frame is just make sure you reset your chart so that the candles are proportionate to the time frame that you're looking at. So now we took it from the weekly to the 4 hour, and we're literally going to do the same exact thing. If you want to put a text here in this green box so we know that this is your weekly support, right? You can do that. That's one thing I like about TradingView is you can take so many notes, right? And then we can even put some text up here to let us know that this is our weekly resistance, right? And we already saw that this market has resisted off of this area 3 times. We know it's a strong area of resistance. And based on how low the market is now, and because we've assessed that it's in a downtrend, and because we've assessed that this gap still has to be filled, you guys can see the gap that needs to be filled on a smaller time frame. Just drop a 7 in the chat. Right? Just drop a 7 in the chat, because the smaller the time frame you get onto, the more precise you're going to be able to find your entry point, right? Now, if you guys have ever seen any one of them online demonstrations where it's like, and I use this a lot, where it's like, this is you, this is the park you're in, this is your city, this is your state, this is your country, this is your continent. Like, if you've ever seen those things where it keeps getting like either further out until you're in space or zooming in, this is kind of what the market is like, right? You can't see yourself all the way from outer space where you're super zoomed out and on a weekly time frame. But when you go down to the smaller time frames, you can actually see exactly what's happening, and you can pinpoint a better entry point for yourself, right? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to find 3 more areas of resistance on our 4-hour time frame. So you can take your circle tool, or you can honestly have a mental note, but I'm just doing this because visually, just to help you guys out, right? So I'm gonna put, as long as we get 3 rejections off of that area, right? Once the market touched this area, a downtrend was started. We know that this is a good place to sell. So we have our 3 rejections, and I'll also draw it out for you. We can see that the market was going up. It rejected a few times, actually. It looks like 3 rejections within this one bubble. Market went down. Same thing we have here. The market rejected 3 times in the bubble or more. The market went down. We have a lower one, but we have one up here. The market rejected and the market went down. So what we now have created was an even smaller, right? An even smaller area of resistance that we can highlight, and we could potentially set our entries in this area as well, right? So I like to put my circles first, and then I'll put my rectangle, and we're going to turn this one red. So we can know that this is our 4-hour. So we can know that this is our 4-hour resistance. And this is still without any indicators, y'all. You just are trying to find the perfect entry point for yourself. Once you've established what the market is doing, whether that's buying or selling, now your job is to find the entry point. So you know that you can get into the market at market execution, which means that if you wanted to get into this market at where the market is now, 1.09445, that would be okay, right? You would just have to set your stop loss at the last area of resistance, and you would set your TP at the next area of support. Now, before I continue, do you guys have any questions so far about setting up support and resistance on multiple time frames or anything that I mentioned so far? If no questions, drop a 2. If you guys are good, drop a 3. And I'll just wait a few seconds. Okay, I'm going to assume that everyone's good. So now that we did that on our 4-hour chart, we can do the same thing with our support, right? We want to find an area where the market was supported 3 times. So I like to start from the right and go to the left. So I have one area where the market was supported. I have another area where the market was supported, and I have that's a small area, and this is another small area. So this means that every time the market got into this zone, it decided to go back up, right? And it's important. This is a small one, and it's important to recognize where the market is being supported and resisted, because if it's selling, right, your previous support areas are going to be your TPs. And if it's buying, your previous resistance areas are going to be your TPs. So we have those 4 areas where we can see that the market was supported. So I'm going to draw my green box here. Right, I'm going to draw my green box here, and I can see that the market is either going to come into this zone here and buy back up to here, or the market is going to continue to sell. Now, again, we can keep going down to the smaller time frames, but once you have your support and resistance established, now how you actually determine if you're going to buy or sell, this is when your indicators come into play, right? Because looking at this, if you don't have any indicators on your chart, you're going to say, okay, the market is pushing into a zone where I should be looking for buys. However, I've already established on the 4-hour and the weekly that this market is selling. Now you put in your indicators, because these are going to tell you or confirm what you see. Are we going to take the sell based on a higher time frame, or do you think the market is going to come into this buy zone and go back up? That is when we get our indicators, right? And for me, based on my first 2 indicators that I added back to the chart, I'm getting sell vibes. Another thing that you guys can write down is one of the 3 things that you're looking for when you're getting into a trade is the trend, right? The top 3 things you're looking for are going to be the trend, the momentum, right? And the volume of traders that are in the market. So what is the overall trend, right? Is this market going up mainly, or is this market going down mainly, right? And we've established on a higher time frame, this market is going to be going down. Now, there are so many different trend indicators that you can use on your chart, and the trend indicators literally confirm which way the market is going. Now, the indicators that I like to use, because we're going to pull all this stuff together, the indicators that I like to use for my trend are going to be my 50 EMA and my 200 EMA. Now, you can use one or both of these indicators, but I just feel like moving averages, it tells you exactly what is happening. It's the moving average. And what you'll notice is, let me see if I can hide this stuff real quick. What you'll notice is that when the candles are above the EMAs, and I say this in all of my videos, when the candles are above the EMAs act as a support. And remember, we were just talking about support. Whenever the candles are above and they get close to that EMA, 1 or 2, it's going to go up, right? Candles above the EMAs, market go up. We can see that happen here one time. We can see that happen here 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Like it doesn't fail, right? It really doesn't fail. So if I'm looking for a buy after I set up my support and resistance, I would love to see that my candles are above the EMAs, because if the EMA is a trend indicator, if it's the moving average, right, and it's changing based on what the market is doing, then it's going to be very accurate. Now, although it does lag sometimes, it is still a strong indicator that you can use. Some people trade with no indicators, but it has helped me a lot. Now I'm gonna just zoom back a little bit so we can see when the candles are falling below the EMAs, one or both, you'll notice that the EMAs are now an area of resistance, right? So even though the candles could be buying for a little bit, look at this little up action we had. It didn't continue to buy. Why? Because it hit that EMA and it resisted. This is why I say you should trade with the trend, right? Because this trend, we can clearly, if you guys can see that this trend is overall down just based on the shape. If you guys can see that, drop a 7 in the chat, right? Now, just because the market is on an overall downtrend, that doesn't mean that you won't have some green candles like here, like here, like here. You're going to have your green candles, but focus on the trend. Candles below the EMA, sell. Candles above the EMA, buy. So let's go back to the most current part of the chart, right? So the candles are below the EMA, right? And we're going to bring our drawings back. Candles are below the EMA. We're going to delete that support because now we chose to sell. We didn't set up any resistance on the hour, but we can. Again, just do the same thing. Do you have 1, 2, 3 sell rejections? Yes, you do. So you put an area of resistance right there. Right? Now, when it comes to your TP, if you're selling, your TP is simply going to be your previous area of support. And where do we get those areas? We get them here. Here's 1, right? Here's 2. Here's a small one, 3. Here's another one, 4. So if we get in for a market execution sell, our TP would simply be the previous low, right? Because you guys have to remember, when we're trading and the market is going down, right, it's creating lower lows, right? Let's start from here. Let's start from here. The market was selling. This was a low. The market continued to sell. It created a lower low. The market continued to sell. It created a lower low. It created a lower low. It created, right? So now, if this market continues to sell, our TP is going to be beneath the previous low because it has to create a lower low, right? Am I making sense, y'all? Let me know. Drop a 7 in the chat. Right? We've already established what the trend is. Now, finding your entry point comes to checking your indicators. So again, below the EMAs, sell. The second thing that you need to know about the trade is, what is the momentum, right? Is the momentum high? Is it low? Is it in favor of the buyers or is it in favor of the sellers? Now, how I use the momentum indicator is very simple. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let me actually just reset this chart. How I use the momentum indicator is like this. If it's facing down, right, or below 0, and you can see, if you guys look to the right of my momentum indicator, you'll see it says negative 0.00257, right? If it's negative, anything negative, you're going to notice that this is a confirmation for a sell. If it's facing down or basically below the dotted line, that's another confirmation for a sell, right? So far, I've confirmed that the trend is selling, right? Not only with my support and resistance, but also with my EMAs. Don't worry about the noise, right? Since we got a closer look at it, we can see that even though you may have some green candles happening, right, on the downtrend, the overall trend is always going to sell. And the market will probably just retest back to the EMA. Sometimes it'll break out, but even look at this, y'all. When it broke out, where did it go? It only went back to our weekly resistance before it came back down. Since this is such a smaller time frame, we can even get jiggier and say that this is another area of resistance, because look what we have. We have 1, 2, 3 rejections, right? So if we were going to take this trade for a sell, which I highly recommend, I would do a sell limit, and you guys can write this down, or I'll put it in the chat. You could do a sell limit at 1.09610, and then you can set your TP and your SL accordingly, right? Remember, if you're going, and this, the reason why it's important to take at least 5 to 10 minutes to mark up your charts and put your boxes and put your lines on there is because once you do this, you already have your entry and exit points, right? We just need to take anxiety out of our trading and just let the market do what it's going to do. We're not always going to be right, but we're also not always going to be wrong, right? We're not always going to be right, but we're not always going to be wrong. And what we have to learn to do once we have these really good entry points is we just have to learn to sit through the noise, right? This is a downtrend, right? Yes, there's going to be some consolidation, but the trend will continue. So even if you got into the trade up here and you set your TP down here, just let the market go, right? Sit through the noise. Don't keep checking your trades. Set your alerts. Once you set your alerts, if the market hits your TP, you'll know. If the market hits your stop loss, you'll know, right? And again, your TP for a sell is just going to be your previous low. So I'm going to just put this line right here. So if I got it from market X, that would still be a nice 30 pips from 42 to 15. That's still a nice 30 pip trade if you guys even wanted to get into the trade right now, right? It's pretty simple. And then when you zoom out, you can just see everything, right? And I'll just simply put another horizontal line right there. And we can see, even if I hide, let me see. If I hide everything, we should still be able to see how this is a selling trend based on, one, this gap has to be filled, right? It has to be filled. 2, the market has been creating lower lows. Look, those are lows, those are lows, those are lows. It wants to create a lower low. 3, we see more red candles than we see green candles. And 4, we said on the weekly time frame that this is an overall selling trend. So if I was you guys, or the trade that I'm probably going to drop in the chat is, I'm probably going to do a sell limit, like I said, for a short position, right? So let's just say we got it now. You guys know I love my 40 pip TP for TP1, my 40 pip stop loss, and this is what the trade will look like, right? Again, our stop loss essentially, you can make it higher if you want and take it back up to the actual resistance, right? And then our TP is just a little bit below where the previous low was. And if you want to take a TP2, you just drag it down, right, to where a previous low was, which is here. And let me just move this line. And if you want to make it hit a TP3, you just take it down to a previous low, right? And you just essentially keep going with the trade because remember, now that we've established the market is downtrend, right? It's under the EMAs. The MOM is negative and below 0. And our handy dandy stochastic, right? Our stochastic is also below 50, right? And you look at these numbers to the right of my stochastic. You see that is one says 4.96 and one says 0.08. If those numbers are below 50, that is a confirmation for a sell, right? Now, sometimes it's easy to just look at the numbers than to try to determine, like, look at the momentum. We don't know what this thing is doing over here. But if I look at the numbers, I can clearly see that is a negative number, which is giving me a sell confirmation. Same thing with my stochastic. If it was above 50, like look at this black number near the stochastic. It says 48.05, 51. So it can be positive. But right now, it's below 50, which for me is another selling confirmation. So honestly, this trade is giving all sell vibes to me. I feel pretty confident in it. I would probably take it to 40 pips for my first TP and maybe just trail my stop loss at 60 pips for TP2 and 80 pips for TP3. What we have seen throughout the class the last couple of weeks is that 80 pips is a pretty safe place to be, whether you want that to be your first TP because you have patience, or whether you want to break the trade down into smaller bite-sized pieces that really help you secure more pips, right? So simply put, know what the trend is of the market, right? If you don't have any type of line indicators or EMAs on the top half of your chart near your candles, make sure you add some, right? I noticed that a lot of people have been coming to class, but your chart is not quite set up the way that my chart is. And I'm not saying that I'm correct, but it'll be hard for you to follow along and to understand what I'm teaching if you're not mirroring the things that I'm doing, right? It's a lot of duplication when it comes to trading. It's very methodical. It's nothing, it's no special sauce about it. It's literally just like, just do what's here, right? And if you're still in the process of learning, that's fine. Remember, you can take advantage of your indicator templates, which is here, this little box. If I wanted to upload another template, I got that template right there. But if you want to use the strategy that I'm teaching in class, make sure you save it as a template so that you can always reference it at least while you are learning, right? So this is our first official trade idea of the week, y'all. I'm going to say Euro USD for a market execution sell. If you don't want to do market execution, you can set a sell limit about 20 points above where the market currently is. But I'm going to just zoom out and y'all let me know, right, based on what's here, if this makes sense for a sell, right? If this makes sense for a sell, drop a 7 in the chat, just based on what we learned today, right? Based on what I went over today and based on your understanding of the market. Give me a 7 in the chat if this looks like a sell. And give me a 3 if you don't know what the F I'm talking about. It's giving sell vibes to me. I'm going to be selling. But to each their own, right? So yeah, that's how I really snipe these entries, y'all. I gotta be, sometimes it takes, like, you probably don't believe this, but every time I come in here and do analysis, I delete all of this stuff off my chart and I start over, right? Not my indicators, but it's nothing for me to take the drawings off of my chart and then just to reassess really quickly, because sometimes it's nice to come into the market with fresh eyes. And I know a lot of people, like, let's just say if you are using some different type of indicators on your chart, I'm gonna take my EMAs off. You probably would make the same mistake that I made a lot of times, and you would say, once the market comes back down here, it's gonna buy, right? And that's likely, right? It could buy. That's why it's important to have indicators that are in alignment with what you need to understand about the market. It doesn't make sense to have millions of indicators. If you need to understand the trend, you should use the strongest yet simplest trend indicator, which is going to be the EMA, right? If you need to understand the momentum, what better indicator to use than the momentum indicator? If you need to understand the volume, which is how many buyers and sellers are in the market, what better indicator to use than the volume bars, 1, or 2, the stochastic, which is essentially 5 indicators in 1, right? So yes, we know the market has the potential to bounce here and then come back up. But based on my momentum indicator being negative, based on my stochastic being so far below 50, it's giving sell, right? That's what it's giving. And I'm not going to argue with the indicators. I'm not going to be like, yada, 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 it's going to buy. Yes, it's going to buy, but is it going to buy before it sells again? And based on this analysis that we all did collectively, it doesn't seem like it. But if you would like to see how that's going to play out, you do have a demo account. I always encourage everybody to use your demo account because I'm not always right. I just stop fighting with the market. Like, the market is like that person that's just, you just know you can't beat them. So just don't say nothing. Just let them do what they're going to do. And you can't beat them. Everybody know it. So just let them do what they're going to do. So cool. That's Euro USD, first trade idea of the week. Hopefully that made sense. If you guys would like me to look at another currency pair, right, just to get some trades on the board for this month, drop a currency pair in the chat. I'll do a quick markup, and then we'll wrap up the class for today. So you guys can say anything. You guys can say nothing. I'll give you about 30 seconds if you want to do another chart markup, or if you're okay with this and you're ready to hop into the charts for the week. GBP USD, that's a good one. GBP USD, okay, the last GBP USD trade we got in definitely hit TP1 before it reversed it and started acting crazy. Oh wow, this drone like is dropping severely. Oh yeah, this is going to be another selling market. Look at this beautiful, just everything. I should go get in right now, but I'm gonna wait. So all right, y'all, we pretty much going to run through the same process that we literally just went through when it came to Euro USD. We're going to start on the weekly, and we just going to see like what's really happening here, right? Do we see any strong areas of support or resistance? I like to literally start where the market is and go backwards because it's easier. So I'll put a circle there, and I'll say, okay, last time the market was at this area, what did it do, right? And I see some rejections here. This was a buy, so that's a pivot point. A pivot point just means it can go either way at that area, but what has it done more than likely? So we can see that more than likely once this will actually be an example of a perfect entry because you can see how much of this gap has to be filled. So that was a good call so far, Shannon. Like if this market actually continues to drop, which is looking very likely, that would be a perfect entry. So I can see that the market came to this area, rejected, right? It already hit the rejection point. For me, 3 or 4 rejections on the weekly or any time frame is strong to me, and it lets me know that okay, this is something that I want to pay more attention to. So we're gonna put our little rectangle right there, and we're gonna do the same thing for support. Right? When was the last time this market was supported? So we can know if we are selling, right? Where are we selling down to? Right? So that's one gap that has to be filled. If that makes sense so far, y'all drop a 7 in the chat. Because this is still in the weekly. Now we can look at our other indicators as well. Since we have everything on the chart right now, we can see that the momentum is positive, right? It's not negative. So we will wait for this trade. And we can also see that the stochastic is facing down. And it is below 50. However, we don't want to half-ass this, right? We want all of our indicators to be in alignment for the sell, but we're simply not going to take the trade. So what we're going to do next, we're going to go down to the, let me zoom out. We're going to go down to the 4 hour. And we're going to see, we're going to do pretty much the same thing. We're going to find areas of resistance. So we can see one here. I'll just move this. We see a small one here and a small one here. So it hasn't quite really gotten into that selling momentum yet, right? It hasn't really gotten, I see 1, 2, okay, three rejections. Okay. I just like really, really, really strong. So I will wait for it to drop a little bit more, but we can still see that even on this time frame, this gap has to be filled. Not only does the gap has to be filled, let's look at our other confirmations. We have candles forming below both of the EMAs. Candles already rejecting. The MOM is strongly facing down and below 0. My stochastic is also facing down and below 0. So cool. We have everything we need for the sell. We don't want to psych ourselves out. We don't want to say no, no, no. We simply want to enter this trade, right, at market execution or set a sell limit at the previous resistance. And our TP would be here at the previous low, right? So that's, it don't look like a lot, but that's 80 pips. From here to there is 80 pips, which is about how much our trade would be. And if you want to do a TP2, you can set it to here. If you want to do a TP3, you can actually ride it all the way back down to the weekly support zone. So GU on the is looking like a sell as well. Let's just come back down. And this is a really perfect example. Let me zoom in. how the market is consolidating, right? We know it's an overall downtrend. However, it's noisy. And this noise is what makes us nervous. This is what makes us think that we should be buying, but it's just simply not true. We're going to let the market get out of this little noisy phase. And then it's most likely, look, it's already rejected off of the EMA. So if you want to set a sell limit, it should be about there, right? Your stop loss should be at the previous high. Because remember, if the market's selling, it shouldn't be creating higher highs, right? If the market is selling, it should not be creating higher highs. So your stop loss is going to be above the previous high, while your TP is going to be below the lowest low because it's creating new lows. This is not quite negative, but this is below 50. So this is one of those ones where it may take some time to develop. This trade, I'm not a psychic, but this trade may be in limbo or consolidating until like 9 p.m. when that first 4-hour candle, or it may even not drop until 3 a.m. But this is going to be a big drop. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a really dramatic big candle on this because that's the way it's setting up. Plus, we have these two huge wick rejections, right? Telling us that price wants to get pushed down lower. So this is something y'all can put in your watch list as well. And again, TP would be here. So that's about 60 pips, right? Again, that's right in what we would usually do. 60 pips for TP2. So you can do a TP1 here and a TP2 there and a TP3, or you can just ride it out, right? Don't get caught in the fact that it's consolidating and you think it might buy. It's below the EMAs and it's an overall selling trend. So don't believe the hype, y'all. So yeah, I'll drop that in the chat as well. So I'm gonna say potential sell GBP USD. So it's very simple, y'all. It's very simple. Like once you find your method, if you don't have indicators that you like to use yet, or you don't have indicators that you can trust, I would highly recommend that you consider my strategy, right? I've literally tried every indicator on TradingView. I've tried every indicator on Pocket Option. I've tried every indicator on MetaTrader 4. I've tried every indicator combination. And to be honest, this is the strategy that's gotten me the most success, the most profits. It's gotten me funded accounts. It's gotten me live accounts. It's got me undefeated with 16-0 in July. So there should be no resistance into trying something out, right? If you haven't found something that works bulletproof for you yet, don't be anti, right? Just try it out and see what happens, right? Use the confirmation checklist that I posted in the chat and see what happens. Ask questions, see what happens. So that's really all I have for you guys today. I will post these trade ideas in the chat as well, and I'm also going to post them on TradingView. If you guys have not followed me on TradingView, I'm going to go ahead and post my link in the chat because sometimes I do post trades on TradingView and not in the chat, but that's only because it'll be like maybe 3 a.m. I'm not really sure who's up. So this is my TradingView, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and drop my link in the chat. And on TradingView, I post the same trade ideas that are in the chat. It's just maybe I post them here sometimes if it's just too late and I feel like I shouldn't. And then the same way that I post the trade reviews on YouTube after every trade plays out, I also post the same thing on TradingView as well. But here you can actually engage with the trade ideas. Like you can boost them, which means you give it a like. You can also share them, and you can also just get more information. Because I typically will put explanations after I get into the trade, but not before. But on TradingView, as you can see here, I'll put explanations before I get into the trade. So you'll see looking for EU to buy at market execution, and I'll say why break of structure is on the upside, bullish conditions met, candles above EMA, bullish conditions met, and all that nice stuff. And then you can pretty much see how everything played out. So if you're serious about trading, it's just another place to get resources and information. I tell you guys this all the time. I'm not the only trader. But I'll give you guys just one more tip that I really love about TradingView because it really is a community. and it'll help you with your trades throughout the week if you're not getting enough from the class. So let's just say that you wanted to look at I don't know. I'm gonna just click Forex. This is on the TradingView homepage. Let's just say you wanted to look at Euro USD. You would click Euro USD here, or whichever pair that you like. It could be Euro GBP, and then you come down here, and it has trade ideas, right? So anybody who has a trade idea with that particular asset, it'll be here. So it's a educational ideas, right? And then everything will be here. So top stories, streams, US stocks, trade ideas, community trends, like it's just like so many different things you could do. So hold on. Euro USD. Now if I go to the Euro USD screen and I click ideas, it'll be nothing but Euro USD trade ideas. Huge uptrend is ready. Euro USD, Euro can make a little movement down and then continue to rise. The same way I post my ideas is so many people posting ideas here. This is your bullish plan, right? Unique idea, price can bounce. And then I'm just going to click on one to give you an example of the type of stuff people be posting up here. See, it's just a little video, little drawings. It'll show you how everything worked out for them and stuff like that. So it's a lot of information here, y'all. Please take advantage of it. If you want a really, really in-depth dive in TradingView, go watch my TradingView in-depth video where I go over every single feature of the community aspect of TradingView and how you can use that to take your trading to the next level as well. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm sorry I'm sniffing over here. Yeah, stick around a second. But you guys have any more questions for me? Any more questions? If you have an additional question or something you want to say or ask me, just go ahead and drop a 7 in the chat or a question mark. If not, don't say nothing. And we're going to wrap it up. Thank you. This video, I will post it in the chat for y'all tonight. And then I will be posting it on YouTube in 7 days. So, thank you, Will. I'm glad you enjoyed the class. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. And if anybody needs a one-on-one this week, just text me. My availability is pretty open this week. All right. Well, good night, y'all. I'll see y'all possibly tomorrow at 2 or 8, but I will let y'all know. So have a good night, my rich friends.